there's a common custom today, or I should say it's not uncommon, that people get buried in Eretz Yisrael. As they take certainly someone who lived in Eretz Yisrael, and usually they get buried there. But there's a practice today, and also because of the event of airplanes and easier travel, so there are many people, many families have a custom that they take the bodies to Eretz Yisrael to be buried. And they want to follow in Yaakov Avinu's footsteps, apparently, as Yaakov said, "I'll not take Bareni b'Mitzrayim." He didn't actually say Eretz Yisrael. He said, "Don't bury me in Mitzrayim." Based on the different reasons Rashi gives, whether Eretz Yisrael would fit in, because according to the first reason, he was afraid of the Makakinim. So as long as you got the plague of the Kinim, that they would go into his body.
Oh. Is that a Midrash? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's Rashi quoting the Midrash on why he didn't want to be buried in Mitzrayim. Either because he knew there was a Makar Kinim and he didn't want the Kinim going in his body, which we see parenthetically that some of the Makkahs happened to the Jews as well, albeit not on the same level. Goshen was still affected, because the same lousy Chutz La'aretz. It was a Makkah on the land. So therefore, as the Rambam in Perush HaMishnah says the same thing, that they were affected.
Were there other Makkahs which covered Goshen also?
Right.
Koshech didn't, I believe.
No, right. It was because they say because of Kenan, because that was a Makkah on the land. So the land is still not Eretz Yisrael.
Okay.
It's still Eretz Yisrael.
Okay.
And the second reason Rashi gave was that he doesn't want them to make an Avodah Zarah out of me.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, because if they would have moved them anywhere, that would have been. That's why Lahavdil, that's what the Americans were worried about when they buried Osama bin Laden. They threw him in the water.
Yes, otherwise
they were concerned that they made a place that is worse than making Avodah Zarah be a place to get together.
Okay.
But the third one is because of more al-pi Kabbalah, that the body is going to roll. That whoever's not buried in Eretz Yisrael, the bodies are going to roll there, and it might be painful.
Okay, that doesn't apply to Yosef, applies to any of us, I suppose.
No, that's the reason Yaakov gave.
I'm sorry.
So say based on the first two reasons, he could have been buried anywhere out of Egypt. I'm saying. Based on the third reason, that specifically you want to be in Eretz Yisrael, because obviously.
Yes.
If you're not, wherever you are, if you're going to end up in Israel and you're going to roll there, it will be painful. So either way, it's a discussion among the poskim whether it's preferable, even if one who lives in Chutz La'aretz and dies in Chutz La'aretz, whether they should be buried in Eretz Yisrael or not. Some say, what do you bring? The mace is an avi avos hatuma. You're bringing a dead body. You bring tuma to Eretz Yisrael. There's a discussion in the Yerushalmi with the rabbis about, they said, what are these people bringing coffins to Eretz Yisrael for? So that's a discussion among the poskim whether it's an appropriate practice. Everyone agrees for Gedolei Hador or Tzaddikim, for special people, everyone can bring a raya from Yaakov. That was quoted in Torah anyway. But there's a shiloh for average person. Should he be taking his body to Eretz Yisrael or not? So again, to the different minhagim. Other people have different issues. Rav Henkin was against it for other reasons, in terms of that it's going to cost the almana a lot of money to send the body to Israel, and the people might feel pressure to do things and they don't have that money. So for more pragmatic reasons, people were against it as well.
Similar to a reason why you shouldn't have very fancy weddings. I mean, it's practical.
Or fancy funerals.
Yes.
Yeah, because you could spend, because you have coffins that could cost,
right.
25,000, 50, to different levels. That's one of the things he speaks about also, that you shouldn't be spending too much money on those things, because if the almana, if the widow needs money, people, it's still true today, even though people might have life insurance policies and other things, but it's still no geya. So there's different minhagim among different families, whether you take the body and you bury someone in Eretz Yisrael, even though they lived in Chutz La'aretz.
So the point is not just that it's a good idea, but we can't all afford it. Or don't. Some people think it's actually a bad idea.
Yeah, or definitely not. It's not a positive. And why are you bringing your body to Eretz?
Yes.
If you live there, we want you. We don't want you after you're dead.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the question on that. Because you can't do mitzvahs anymore. So I'd say that the practice probably more recently is more people are involved in that practice, and also probably because practically now with the advent of airplane travel being so common, so therefore it wasn't shaykh for most people to do it. So, but so today, so yesh v'yesh. So I'm not judging the practice. The practice, different poskim say it's a good thing, others don't. So it's a machlokas ha-poskim like you find by any other halacha. So assuming you go with this practice, so let's say you're taking the body to Eretz Yisrael, which isn't uncommon now. So the body's on the bottom, and you're flying on the top, or on the regular, maybe first class, maybe business class, maybe this eco, but you're flying on the plane, and the body is on bottom. So there's a halacha of aninus, of an onain, that the onain is someone is between the death and the burial, not the person who's dead. He's chafshim in ha-mitzvahs. He's not worried, but the relatives who are chayiv in the kfura, they have to make sure he's buried. So there's halacha of an onain. In our Torah, the halacha has to do with karbanos, ma'aser sheni. We don't have that halacha today. But we have the colloquial name onain. It's not really an onain. It's misha mesa mutu lefanav, but it was too long to put that in the Shulchan Aruch, so they just wrote onain, aninit. That's what Rav Soloveitchik says anyway. So either way, that's the din of anina. So onain, we know, is pater min ha-mitzvahs. He's exempt from mitzvahs. Of course, only exempt from mitzvahs aseh. He can't go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac. He's still chayiv in negative commandments. So onain's pater min ha-mitzvahs. Why? Because he's osek b'kfura shel meis. So there's a major machlokas, Rashi and Tosfos, whether he's pater or it's usher. In other words, let's say I feel like I can transcend the situation. I feel I could do a mitzvah now. Am I allowed to, or is it usher? So Rashi deals with tirda the mitzvah. So according to Rashi, if you're able to and you feel like doing it, you can do it. Eino tzarach. According to Tosfos and the way we paskin, quoting the Yerushalmi, it's kavod ameis. It's lo l'rush. It's inappropriate. You're sitting there doing mitzvahs, and the dead can't do mitzvahs anymore. So we paskin, it's usher to do mitzvahs if you're in onain.
I was just thinking, so say bracha acharona, for instance. Now,
what about bracha
if you don't
rishona?
Acharona, maybe you have to, because you're buying the food from the, from the world or something, buying it from God somehow.
Bracha rishona is a big problem.
Okay,
you can't make either. It's a question why not, because it's halacha aser lahanos v'lamazel bracha. That's a separate share. How come you can eat without a bracha? But the bottom line is you don't make a bracha.
I see. Okay.
Even a bracha rishona.
Okay, let's say what bracha rishona.
Maybe listen to someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say bracha rishona then. That's good. And if you don't have to, you mustn't. Because that's why it's a bracha levatala.
No, exactly, but you don't have to fast. So
I mean, you don't have to make the bracha.
So therefore,
I'm talking about making the bracha. If you don't have to make it, you mustn't.
What do you mean if you don't have to? If you're eating, you have to.
No, but you part from it, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so ordinarily I'm saying only wouldn't make a bracha, but I'm saying ordinarily, if you eat the food, you have to.
Yeah, but I mean, as an onain,
Right.
If you're an onain,
so
and you follow Rashi, that it's not that you mustn't make brachas, or say you don't have to make
According to Rashi, then you can.
Then you can, but if if it's not forced on you, you mustn't, because otherwise it's a bracha, a necessary bracha.
It's not forced. No one. Let's say it's a 24-hour thing. You don't have to fast for 24. No one says you shouldn't eat.
I'm not saying I should fast either. I'm going to eat regardless.
Yes, so what are you saying? So according to Rashi, you can make a bracha. What do you mean?
Yeah, actually I can make a bracha, but if I can, but I don't have to.
Well, what do you mean don't have to? If I don't have to eat, what do you mean?
No.
No one's forcing you.
Rashi says
when do you have to eat? What do you mean? When you're hungry, you eat. Well, we eat when we're not hungry also, but what do you mean have to?
If the person passed away after you've already started eating, so now you're chayiv bracha achrona, you don't, right? It's something that you're actually chayiv in now. But the question is, can do or can't do. Is that what you're...
Yeah, my question is, I'm saying, brachas are different from other mitzvahs, I say. Brachas are, it's not you do it if you feel like it. If you don't have to do it, you mustn't do it. That's what
Why
I'm
is that
getting at.
different than mitzvahs?
Well, mitzvahs, if I don't have to sit in a sukkah, a woman doesn't sit, she can still sit in a sukkah.
Right,
But if I don't have to make a bracha, I shouldn't, because otherwise a
no,
bracha...
but if you're an onen, can you sit in the sukkah? It's the same shaila.
Well, if I can sit in a sukkah, I can choose to sit in a sukkah or not. It's fine, according to Rashi. You know, I can sit in a sukkah if I feel like it. But if I can make a bracha if I feel like it, then I mustn't, because optional brachas are, how to say, you must minimize your brachas. If brachas are optional, then you should be stingy with your brachas.
Yeah, but that's right. That's something else. That's a bracha shein tzricha.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know, but that's all the time. A bracha you don't make even if you're not an onen. So that's not really relevant here. So either way, it's a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi says, in a case where ordinarily, if you were an onen, you're chayiv to make a bracha, but since you're an onen, you're patur. Rashi says if you're up to it, he doesn't say it, but that's the implication of Rashi. You can. And Tosfos says it's asur because it's lo le'garash. However, even the Yerushalmi writes, up until you give over the body to the ksafim, to the chevra kadisha. So the shaila is bisman hazeh. What do you mean? Give it over? You patur for mitzvahs until you give it over the chevra kadisha. They take it right away, whether you're in the hospital or the home. So does this whole halacha patur mitzvahs even apply bisman hazeh? You're not involved with the kfura, at least physically speaking. So that's how the chachmas adam wants to write bisman hazeh, that the exemption of patur mitzvahs doesn't apply bisman hazeh because we give over to the chevra kadisha right away. However, the Nod Yudah points out that's not what the Gemara means. We're still patur in a mitzvah. Gemara was talking about where there used to be osek b'kfura, take care of the mace, but then the cemeteries were in the outskirts of the town, so it was dangerous for people to go there. It was dark. It was too far to go. So after they did everything, they took care of the mace, and then they gave it over to the chevra kadisha. At the end, that's when they're patur. So then they used to go back and begin Avelis. So that's what the Gemara is talking about there. But Bisman Hazeh, we're giving the Chevra Kadisha, we're still Ostek B'Kfura, we're calling up people to tell them about the Levaya, we're preparing the eulogy, we're thinking about the May, so therefore, and that's the way we assume the exemption still applies even Bisman Hazeh. So the Shaila is someone on an airplane. So what are you doing? The body's underneath, and you're flying to Israel now. Does the exemption of patur mitzvahs apply when you're on an air? Is that considered like giving it over to the ksafim or not?
Is it because you're busy doing things, or it's because you should be thinking about the mace?
Right. So therefore, that's going to be in the Kurah. Shlomo Zalman has a big chiddush. He writes that before you get on the plane, you put them in a mitzvahs. When you're for that 10-hour, 12-hour ride, you're chayav in mitzvahs, and when you get off the plane, you put them in mitzvahs. He learns it clearly since you can't physically do anything now because the body's underneath the plane. So it's clearly not if you are doing it, but then but you can't even potentially do anything in terms of the body because the body's not accessible now for them. But that's what Shlomo Zalman and they say over from the Nishmas Avram, who was his doctor, that on his way home from the hospital after his wife passed away, he told him, when I get home tonight, I'm going to say Kriya Shema Lamita. He says, why? Because 2 minutes before I go to sleep, I'm not being oseg anymore. However, that's a big chiddush. We don't assume that way. Most poskim, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, others, that there's no aninis lechatzon. Once you're an onen, you're an onen to the end. In other words, the shaila came up. I had a shaila. Comes up if someone dies Friday and the burial is Saturday night or Sunday. So someone called me up and asked me about mincha on erev Shabbos. So I daven mincha erev Shabbos. So I said, Pashas, you're patur. You're an onen until Shabbos. However, that's the issue. According to Shlomo Zalman, you should daven mincha because you should daven mincha a couple minutes before Shkia, because what are you going to do? Others say no. Up until the last minute, you're being oseg, you're thinking about the maze, you're preparing the eulogy, you're calling up people. So that's that issue about davening mincha on erev Shabbos while you're at onen, the issue of kriya shema lamita, the issue of being on an airplane. I'll tell you on how far does the exemption go. So Rosh Hashanah has a big chiddush to say that you're chayav for a certain time. But many poskim disagree and say when you're an onain mitchila ad sofa, you can't have a period where I'm an onain, I'm not an onain, I'm back an onain again.
So I would say even on the plane you're an onain.
Right, the pashtus, even on an onain, therefore you can't make brachas. Some point out you should, if someone's sitting next to you, you could listen to someone else's bracha. Right, so that, and then there's a
maybe just hearing a.
That's also, and there's a further shayla I'm not going to go into now, but let's say onain does the mitzvah. Does it even count or not? Is it a meaningless activity, or he shouldn't have done it, but he did? So that's a separate. But to summarize, so we discussed today, because of the event of planes and travel, many have a custom of taking the body and sending it to Eretz Yisrael. Like Yaakov Avinu, we didn't want to be buried. So the shayla is, number one, how far does the Keturah mitzvahs go to? Does it even extend when you can't be osik for Pur at all? That's the machlokas, the Noda Yehuda and the Chachmas Adam, and the machlokas with Shlomo Zalman and Rabbi Yaakov other Gedolim. The Pasha seems to be not like Rav Shlomo Zalman, so we assume muncher and onain until the Keturah.